So can you tell us in plain English why you call it crocodile tears?
Well, first of all, GM already has as many dealers as all the imports put together. And the productivity of the GM franchises is a small fraction. In other words, the number of cars sold per franchise, a small fraction of what's sold in the other. So, you know, this is one of the problems with too many brands as well. So there was going to have to be a major reduction in the number of auto dealers. Whatever happened to General Motors?
Well, that might have been a miscalculation on the part of General Motors.
No.
But there is still going to be the extension of pain as these people find themselves laid off and the dealerships closed, right?
The people in, well, the people in dealerships.
Dealerships. These are private-owned companies that have no only relationship to GM is that they give GM money for its cars. I mean, why? Where is
the money to finance the cars?
Where is the precedent to shut down independent businesses connected to a business that's not doing well? I mean, where's the precedent for that? You know of one?
Patrice?
I think that Mr. Eves knows a bit more about this franchising thing, which has prevented GM from, you know, GM's shrinking. We're selling 1/3 less cars in the United States today than we did a year ago. All the auto companies are shrinking. Everyone is shrinking, and they have to. But that means the dealers need to shrink, too.
And the dealers have been claiming for years that they aren't making any money selling new cars. They're making money selling parts and doing servicing and selling used cars. I mean, if you look at the 4.7 million jobs that people say are related to the auto industry in this country, a very small percentage of those are related to actual building new cars, and particularly of the big three. There's still going to be cars in this country. They're still going to need servicing. They're still going to need fuel. And the skills required for an auto salesperson are not really all that, you know, if you look at the training and all, they're not all that great. So I think they're far more flexible. I'm much more worried and much more sympathetic for the people in the plants.
Okay, we've got to move to our next quote from Greg Palast. In effect, he writes, in effect, the Obama administration is demanding that money for an elderly auto worker's spleen should be siphoned off to feed the TARP babies. Workers go without lung transplants so Diamond and Reuben can pimp out their ride. This is another Guantanamo moment for the Obama administration. How come Citi and Morgan aren't asked, like the workers and other creditors, to take stock in GM? Why is this favoritism being shown to Citibank and J.P. Morgan? George and then Patrice?
I actually have something to say. I think he raises a very good issue that's been kind of buried in the press coverage, that they did make these so-called secured creditors whole, the bank lenders. Of course, in the bankruptcy process, they're at the front of the line. They get payments first from the bankruptcy court in a bankruptcy, so they do have to be satisfied in some way in this bankruptcy. But it was surprising that they got, it looks like 100%. But there's an interesting irony, and I don't know if George had looked into this. The same auto task force that gave this group of lenders 100% gave them very little in the Chrysler bankruptcy. It was the same banks, J.P. Morgan, Goldman Sachs. They all took a big bath in the Chrysler bankruptcy. So I kind of wonder if there wasn't some kind of trade-off going on there, since it's the same banks and the same auto task force that made decisions on it, why they chose to hose them in the Chrysler bankruptcy but give them full payment in the GM bankruptcy. I guess we need to get Steve Ratner on the record on that one.
Well, maybe that's something good for you to do, George.
I have no knowledge of that. I would want to comment, though, on this point about, which I take it with all the rhetoric, has to do with the cutting off the post-retirement health benefits. We talked about the spleen being the auto workers. and by extension the salaried GM and just generally auto workers, salaried workers, have had one of the richest health benefit plans ever. I mean, I've been through a lot of different jobs myself, and I will tell you that is by far the richest plan. What they're talking about now is that they used to have something called post-retirement health benefits, which meant when you retired that they picked up anything above Medicare. Mm-hmm. And that was an obligation that General Motors took on as part of originally the bargaining with the union, and they extended to their employees. I never had that. I'm officially, I guess, a retiree. I never planned to get it. I'm going to make do with Medicare, like everybody else. So the GM workers that lose post-retirement health benefits are no worse off than any of the retired people in the country. They have access to the same thing.
True. That's not true at all. In fact, they're being called. There's millions of phone calls being made right now to all sorts of GM retirees to go out and get their dental work and vision work done, because as of July 1st, those benefits have been cut off. Right. So it's not connected.
No one with Medicare gets that at all.
Connected to their retirement benefits right now, they're going to lose vision care and health care immediately.
Yeah, right.
Immediately.
Yeah, but
okay.
None of the other retirees in the country, people over 65, have that.
Right. In the rest of the world, of course, you don't even have to work for anybody to get those things. But in the United States, you're right. It's a privilege to get your vision and dental care taken care of. That's why we have.
In the world, somebody has to pay for it. I mean, the money isn't the health care isn't free, so somebody's paying for it, and what they're basically doing is paying for much higher taxes. Now we maybe should do that, but the idea that somehow the people are going to be disadvantaged relative to other retirees is wrong.
Fred?
Yes.
Is President Obama going to get away with this? What is the recourse of the unions?
Well, I know that, I hope he doesn't. I think that this is an opportunity. This is a window here. We do now, in fact, as this bankruptcy proceeds, the people of the United States, through the United States government, will actually own General Motors. Certainly we will be the largest shareholder. I think this is an opportunity for people to make their voices heard and say, we don't want the bankruptcy plan that's been put forward. We want to keep the factories open and do the conversion. Convert these factories to make the things that we need. This has been offered even by someone as conservative as Robert Wright, former Secretary of Labor under Bill Clinton. He said on the program Marketplace on NPR, wouldn't it be better to use the money to convert General Motors and other declining manufacturing companies into producing what America needs, such as light rail systems and so on, train laid-off auto workers for the new jobs of the future? That's what needs to happen, and now we can press those demands. I don't think this is a done deal at all. I think the people have yet to speak, and I think that's what needs to happen next.
I mean, Bob Reich is the farthest from a conservative, but I agree. I mean, we are paying a very large amount of money for each job that is in fact saved. The argument that he was making was that we're going to take that money and done more with it. Now, the political decision was that they were going to protect some GM jobs, and that's a political decision. It may not be a good one.
Well, Michael Moore, in his piece, Goodbye General Motors, does make a recommendation in which all the American people can win. And so we've got a quote from him as we begin to wind down our show.
There's no way that all people can win in this one.
Well, let's just hear what Michael has to say. He writes, President Obama needs to convert the factories to new and needed uses immediately. Don't put another $30 billion into the coffers of GM to build cars. Instead, use that money to keep the current workforce employed so that they can build the new modes of 21st century transportation. Let them start the conversion work now.